G'day people, I'm Sharon and welcome. Today I'm going to thread a Janome 550E, which is an embroidery only machine, and big thanks to Velma for loaning me her machine. To the best of my knowledge, the 550E, 500E and 400E all thread in exactly the same way. So any of those machines you can watch here. If there are any differences, let me know in the comments. This, in case you haven't noticed, is not Janome bobbin fill. It's a reel of Janome thread. I wanted to show you because I don't have a small reel of the bobbin fill. I would put it in here with the thread coming out from underneath and put the large cover on this end, and I do that because Janome generally put a little nick in one end of their reels, and if you don't have the large cover on, the thread can get caught in that nick and get stuck, which is not very good for it. I'm not using this, but there is a Janome bobbin fill that's this size. The difference is it's white. They may actually have a black version of it, but the actual reel is blue. So that's what you're looking for if you're looking for the small reels of Janome bobbin fill. They generally have a small reel of bobbin fill, so one that's got the blue reel, in with the embroidery machines. This is a large reel of Janome bobbin fill. I can't actually put this directly onto the machine because that hole is too big. So what am I going to do? I've got one of these thread stands. I'm going to stand my thread on this end of it, take it up through here and then into the machine. So why am I talking to you about bobbin fill? What is it and why do we use it? Essentially it just looks like a white thread, but it's actually very fine and will snap quite easily. Why is that? First of all, mostly our embroideries are not under a great deal of pressure, so the thread does not need to be super strong. The brilliance of this is actually that it's fine. Because it's fine, you can get a lot more meters of it onto a bobbin, and therefore you don't need to change your bobbin as often. That's why we use bobbin fill. This is the Janome one, and if you've got a Janome machine, this is what your machine is set up to use. It's perfectly possible for you to use other kinds of bobbin fill. There are other types around, but you will probably need to change the tension in your machine a bit if you're using a different one, because the bobbin cases in the Janomes are actually set for this. Before I start actually threading the machine, I want to show you something, and it's this. In here we have an oil wick, and a great many people do not realise that that is on their machine and they never oil it. You don't need to put a lot of oil in there and you don't need to do it all the time, but you do need to put some oil in there occasionally. Check out in your instruction manual. The instructions on how to wind a bobbin are over here. I'm not 100% behind the instructions they give because they want you to cut things off with this. I would prefer you follow the diagram from here over to this little circle, firmly in there, and then across here. Get your bobbin, fold the thread to double it and give it a twist, and that will mean that you've got something a bit more stiff there to put through the hole from the inside to the outside of your bobbin, and then on there. I'm going to turn my machine on, I'm going to click this over, and then I'm going to press the start stop button, which is down here on the front, and you can see it's winding. Turn it off when you have got enough thread on the bobbin that it won't come undone, and then cut that thread off very close to the bobbin. Press your start stop button again. When the machine gets to this point, you can press the stop button. So when it starts not turning around freely because there's too much thread on it, press the stop button and then click over to the left. Use a pair of scissors to cut it off. If your bobbin did not wind all the way out, and there is a little bit of a gap between the edge of that and the edge of the bobbin, but if it only wound about 2/3 the way out, take it to see a technician and get him to adjust it for you. You'll notice that when the bobbin spindle is over to the right, bobbin winding is happening. You are able to change the bobbin winding speed here. So if it's not going fast enough for you, you can increase it or you can decrease it. I'm happy with where that is. I'll move that over away from where it was winding, and now I'm going to put an embroidery thread, and this is a Janome embroidery thread. Put it on with the thread coming out from underneath towards the front, and as I previously said, if you're using these, because they put the nick in the side of them and you don't want your thread to get caught in it, use the bigger thread holder and just slide it on. We're now going to be threading the main body of the machine. Before I do that, I need to lock the machine. And if you look down the right side here, I have a series of icons. There's a home icon, which is this. There's something coming out of a file. There's a settings icon. There's a question icon, which is for help. And there's a key icon, which is to lock the machine. We have now locked the machine. You should always lock your machine before you thread it. Watching here, we're going to go through underneath the back and pull it into that hole. Then we're going over it and under. Sometimes it doesn't want to cooperate. The thread goes from there under this bit, not over the top of it, and nothing to do with this. It's coming under the piece with the arrow on it. And notice I just pulled on the thread there and here to make sure it's properly through that. One of the reasons that I put the machine on lock is because in doing that, it opened the tension discs down here. So when I take this thread now down here, it should be able to get into the tension discs, which are inside here. I go, so I went from 2 down to 3, up and around 4. Make sure you get it into that take-up lever. You can tell because if you don't get it in there, this thread would now be coming directly from down. It's coming from the take-up lever. And then down here, and that is that little guide there. We then go through the guide that is just above the needle and take the thread over to the left. Just behind this number 7, there is a piece that's got 2 pieces of metal, like a V. We go in there, then we go over the top of the 7, around to the back and cut the thread off, and then it is firm pressure here. And there is the thread that's been taken through to the back. If I pull on this piece at the front, the end, I will just unthread it again. So what I need to do is pull that loop at the back and the machine is threaded. The first time you do this, it's extremely awkward. Once you've done it half a dozen times, it becomes easy. But the thing to remember is the machine needs to be locked and the foot needs to be down. To put the bobbin into the machine, release the cover by moving this to the right and taking it out. Put your bobbin in as though it's a letter P. So the thread is coming down to the left, and that's because we're all practically perfect in every way. Thread in there, finger on top, and go under this guide and then follow the numbers, 1, around and across to 2, and when you pull on it there's a little blade in there so it will cut the thread off. Cover back in and we're ready to go. So now you've got your embroidery machine threaded. For those of you who up until now haven't actually got the machine out of the box because you're scared of it, please do get to the point of threading your machine. And next time I'm with you, I'm going to show you how to do an embroidery. See you next time.